There is a story we tell ourselves, a glittering, seductive story about humanity spreading across the galaxy like seeds on a cosmic wind, our sleek silver ships cutting effortlessly through the dark between stars, arriving at distant suns to plant our flags and build our cities on alien soil. It is a beautiful story. It is also, when you press your ear to the cold mathematics of the universe and listen carefully, a story the laws of physics find quietly, brutally indifferent to. The cosmos does not negotiate. It does not soften its terms for our ambitions or our dreams. What the equations of general relativity, thermodynamics, and propulsion physics describe when you ask them honestly about interstellar travel is not an engineering challenge waiting patiently for a clever solution. What they describe is something far more fundamental, far more absolute. They describe a prison whose walls are woven from the deepest structure of space-time itself, from the irreducible nature of mass and energy, from the terrifying arithmetic of distance. And once you truly understand the mathematics, once you feel the weight of what those equations are actually saying, you do not feel defeated. You feel something stranger and more profound than defeat. You feel the full vertiginous scale of where we actually are. Imagine a moth, a single, fragile moth, its wings impossibly thin, its entire body a few milligrams of biological machinery held together by the most delicate molecular bonds. Now imagine that moth attempting to cross an ocean, not a calm ocean, a roaring, heaving, infinite ocean in the grip of a perpetual hurricane, where the waves rise and crash in total darkness, where the water temperature hovers near absolute zero, and where the air itself is laced with invisible projectiles of frozen matter screaming through the darkness at thousands of kilometers per second. The moth has one resource, a single microscopic drop of nectar, a fuel supply so absurdly insufficient for the crossing that the ratio of available energy to required energy is not merely unfavorable. It is cosmically, mathematically catastrophic. The ocean does not hate the moth. It does not even notice the moth. It simply applies its laws, the same laws everywhere, without exception, and the moth is vaporized somewhere in the first meter of open water before it has even begun. This is not metaphor used carelessly. This is the actual physical situation of any biological or mechanical object attempting to cross the interstellar medium between our sun and the nearest star system. And the mathematics underlying each element of that image, the speed limit, the invisible projectiles, the fuel catastrophe, those are the three profound physical truths that expose interstellar travel for what it actually is. Begin with the first truth, and perhaps the most elegant of all the constraints nature has written into the fabric of space-time. Special relativity, developed by Einstein in 1905, revealed something that should have permanently rewritten our intuitions about space and time, though popular culture has never fully absorbed the implications. The speed of light, approximately 299,792 kilometers per second in a vacuum, is not simply the fastest speed currently achievable with available technology. It is the absolute upper boundary of causal reality itself. No object with mass can reach it. No object with mass can even meaningfully approach it without the universe extracting a cost so severe it borders on the incomprehensible. The nearest star system to our own, Alpha Centauri, sits approximately 4.24 light years from Earth. A light year is the distance light travels in a full year, roughly 9.46 trillion kilometers. To cross that distance in any human-relevant time frame, a ship would need to travel at a substantial fraction of the speed of light, perhaps 10%, perhaps 50%, perhaps higher. And here is where special relativity begins to speak, quietly at first, then with the force of a collapsing star. As a massive object accelerates toward the speed of light, the energy required does not increase linearly. It increases without bound. The relativistic kinetic energy formula, the Lorentz factor multiplied by the rest mass and the speed of light squared, tells us that as velocity approaches the cosmic speed limit, the energy required to push that object faster approaches infinity. Not a large number, not a number that future engineering might address. Infinity, the universe does not offer installment plans on infinity. But even setting aside the energy requirements for a moment, even pretending hypothetically that somehow a ship reached 10% of the speed of light, The temporal consequences of what special relativity calls time dilation begin to fracture the very idea of a return journey. Time does not flow at a constant rate for all observers in relative motion. The faster you move through space, the slower you move through time, not as a perception, not as a psychological illusion, but as a measurable, physical, irreversible geometric fact of how space-time is structured. At 10% of the speed of light, the time dilation is modest. At 50%, it becomes significant. At 90% of the speed of light, for every year that passes aboard the ship, roughly 2.3 years pass on Earth. At 99.5% of light speed, that ratio becomes 10 to 1. This means that even if we solved every other problem, even if the fuel existed and the shielding was perfect, a crew that returned from a nearby star at relativistic speeds would step out of their ship onto an Earth that had aged decades more than they had. Everyone they knew, every colleague, every family member, every institutional structure that defined their identity, gone. Not metaphorically gone, biologically, literally, irreversibly gone. Dust and decomposition and the quiet settling of entropy. Special relativity does not permit a casual round trip to the stars. It permits a one-way journey into a future where the travelers are cosmic strangers on their own home world, if that home world even recognizes them at all. This is not science fiction drama. This is the cold geometry of space-time speaking plainly. The second truth is less elegant and more immediately visceral. It concerns what the interstellar medium actually is and what happens when you try to move through it at a meaningful fraction of the speed of light. Popular understanding of space as a perfect, pristine vacuum is incorrect. The interstellar medium is not empty. It is permeated by gas, predominantly hydrogen, at a density of roughly 1 atom per cubic centimeter in the regions between stars, and by microscopic dust grains, silicate and carbonaceous particles ranging from nanometers to micrometers in size, distributed throughout the galactic disk. Under ordinary conditions, these particles are irrelevant. At the speeds of anything humans have ever built, they pose no threat whatsoever. At relativistic speeds, the mathematics transforms these microscopic specks into something genuinely terrifying. Kinetic energy scales with the square of velocity. An object of mass m moving at velocity v carries kinetic energy proportional to 1/2 mv squared in the classical regime, and at relativistic speeds, the Lorentz factor amplifies this further. A single interstellar dust grain, perhaps a microgram in mass, striking a ship moving at 30% of the speed of light, carries kinetic energy comparable to a small explosive detonation. At 50% of light speed, that same grain carries energy in the range of conventional military ordnance. At 90% of light speed, the arithmetic becomes genuinely apocalyptic. Individual hydrogen atoms, single protons, accumulate into a radiation environment that would deliver lethal doses to unshielded biological tissue within hours. The cumulative effect of crossing 4.24 light-years of interstellar medium at relativistic speeds is not a gentle patter of cosmic drizzle against a sturdy hull. It is sustained bombardment by what the physics of kinetic energy transforms, through pure arithmetic, into a continuous stream of high-yield detonations. Any shielding capable of absorbing this punishment over interstellar distances would need to be of extraordinary mass and sophistication. And every kilogram of shielding added to the ship makes it heavier. And every additional kilogram of mass requires more energy to accelerate. Which brings us to the third truth, and perhaps the most merciless of all the constraints the universe has placed before us. The Tsiolkovsky rocket equation, derived in 1903, describes the fundamental relationship between a rocket, its fuel, and the velocity change it can achieve. It is a simple equation. Its implications are not simple at all. The equation states that the total change in velocity achievable by a rocket is proportional to the exhaust velocity of its propellant, multiplied by the natural logarithm of the ratio of the rocket's initial mass to its final mass. The logarithm is the critical term. It means that to achieve dramatically greater velocity changes, you need exponentially greater ratios of fuel to payload, not linearly greater, exponentially. To accelerate a spacecraft to 10% of the speed of light, using the most energetically favorable reaction available to conventional chemistry, burning hydrogen and oxygen. The fuel requirements are not merely impractical. They exceed the mass of every object in the solar system, combined by many orders of magnitude. Chemical propulsion is not a candidate for interstellar travel. It is not even in the same dimensional category as a candidate. Nuclear fission offers improvement, but the ratios remain catastrophic. Nuclear fusion, the physics that powers the sun, represents the upper boundary of what naturally occurring nuclear reactions can provide. And while fusion propulsion is theoretically capable of reaching perhaps 5% of light speed with fuel masses that are merely astronomically impractical rather than physically impossible, the engineering requirements are still far beyond anything achievable. Antimatter annihilation is the theoretical limit of propulsion physics within known matter. When a particle of matter meets its antimatter counterpart, both are converted entirely to energy, achieving a mass-to-energy conversion efficiency of 100%, the maximum permitted by E equals mc squared. Antimatter rockets, in theoretical models, could potentially approach appreciable fractions of the speed of light with fuel masses that are merely catastrophically large rather than physically infinite. The problem is that antimatter does not exist in useful quantities anywhere in the observable universe. It must be manufactured particle by particle in accelerator facilities, consuming enormous quantities of energy to produce microscopic quantities of antihydrogen that must then be stored without contact with any matter whatsoever, or they annihilate immediately. The total quantity of antimatter humanity has ever produced in the history of particle physics would not power a flashlight for a second. Scaling this to interstellar propulsion requirements is not a manufacturing challenge. It is a confrontation with the thermodynamic realities of energy conservation at civilizational scale. And so, the mathematics closes around us, not cruelly, not with any intention, but with the serene indifference of physical law. The speed of light demands infinite energy to reach. Time dilation severs the traveler from their biological timeline. At any relativistic speed, they could actually survive. The interstellar medium transforms microscopic particles into lethal kinetic weapons at the speeds required. The rocketequation demands fuel masses that dwarf the material content of solar systems. These are not four separate engineering problems waiting for four separate clever solutions. They are four facets of a single, unified physical reality, the reality that the universe we inhabit does not scale to the ambitions we have inherited from science fiction. What does this mean? Not despair. The mathematics that makes interstellar travel so brutally, irreversibly difficult is the same mathematics that makes our universe comprehensible, consistent, and astonishingly structured. The Lorentz factor that fractures time for a relativistic traveler is the same factor that makes atomic clocks aboard GPS satellites tick at slightly different rates than their ground-based counterparts, a correction that makes your navigation precise to within meters. The kinetic energy physics that transforms a dust grain into a weapon at relativistic speeds is the same physics that describes every collision, every chemical bond, every molecular interaction that makes biology possible. The tyranny of the rocket equation is the same thermodynamic bookkeeping that makes energy conservation a universal truth rather than a local suggestion. The cold, mathematical isolation of our solar system from the stars is, paradoxically, the most profound argument for the miracle of what has already happened here. Conscious matter, matter that has organized itself into structures capable of measuring the speed of light, deriving the Lorentz transformation, and calculating the kinetic energy of an interstellar dust grain, has emerged on a small planet orbiting an ordinary star. The distances that imprison us also protect the staggering singularity of that fact. The universe is not empty because we cannot cross it. It is full, unspeakably full, with the mathematics that built everything we are and everything we can know.